Prehistoric music is a term in the history of music for all music produced in preliterate cultures, beginning somewhere in very late geological history. Prehistoric music is followed by ancient music in different parts of the world, but still exists in isolated areas. However, it is more common to refer to the prehistoric music which still survives as folk, indigenous or traditional music. Prehistoric music is studied alongside other periods within music archaeology. Origins. Research on the evolutionary origins of music mostly started in the second half of the 19th century, and was much discussed within music archaeology in the 20th century. After the appearance of the collection of articles, The Origins of Music, the subject was a debated topic of human evolutionary history. There are currently many hypotheses about the origins of music. Some suggest that the origin of music likely stems from naturally occurring sounds and rhythms. Human music may echo these phenomena using patterns, repetition and tonality. Even today, some cultures have certain instances of their music intending to imitate natural sounds. In some instances, this feature is related to shamanistic beliefs or practice. It may also serve entertainment or practical functions. Even aside from the birdsong, monkeys have been witnessed to beat on hollow logs. Although this might serve some purpose of territorialism, it suggests a degree of creativity and seems to incorporate a call-and-response dialogue. C. Zoomusicology. Explanations of the origin of music depend on how music is defined. If we assume that music is a form of intentional emotional manipulation, music as we know it was not possible until the onset of intentionality, the ability to reflect about the past and the future. Between 60,000 and 30,000 years ago, humans started creating art in the form of paintings on cave walls, jewelry and so on. They also started to bury their dead ceremonially. If we assume that these new forms of behavior reflect the emergence of intentionality, then music as we know it must also have emerged during that period. From a psychological viewpoint, the question of the origin of music is difficult to answer. Music evokes strong emotions and changed states of awareness. Generally, strong emotions are associated with evolution. But there is no clear link between music and sex, or between music and survival. Regarding sex, musicians often may use music to attract mates. But that is just one of many functions of music and one of many ways to attract mates. Regarding survival, societies with a musical culture may be better able to survive because the music coordinates their emotions, helps important messages to be communicated within the group, motivates them to identify with the group, and motivates them to support other group members. However, it is difficult to demonstrate that effects of this kind can enhance the survival of one group in competition with other groups. Once music exists, effects of this kind may promote its development, but it is unclear whether they can explain music's ultimate origin. Another possible origin of music is mother rays, the vocal gestural communication between adults and infants. This form of communication involves melodic, rhythmic, and movement patterns as well as the communication of intention and meaning, and in this sense is similar to music. Mother rays has two main functions: to strengthen bonding between mother and infant, and to help the infant to acquire language. Both of these functions enhance the infant's chances of survival and may therefore be subject to natural selection. Mother rays has a gestural vocabulary that is similar across cultures. The way mothers and babies raise and lower their voices and simultaneously change their expressions and move their hands is similar in Asia and Europe. For example, the apparent universality of mother rays could be explained either genetically or by universals of the human environment. A genetic explanation for the vocabulary of mother rays would have to be biological and evolutionary. No such explanation has yet been found. Regarding environment, mother rays may stem from universals of the prenatal environment. The human fetus can hear for 20 weeks before birth, considerably longer than other animals, most of which cannot hear before birth at all. The fetus can also perceive movement and orientation for 20 weeks before birth. This is presumably not an accident of evolution, but an adaptation that promotes the survival of the infant after birth by improving bonding between the infant and the mother. If the fetus learns to perceive the emotional state of the mother via the internal sounds of her body, it can presumably adjust its postnatal demands depending on her availability and in that way enhance its own survival as a fragile being in a dangerous world. Research on the ability of the fetus to learn and remember sound patterns, and on the active two-way nature of mother-infant communication, is consistent with this theory. If this theory is true, the internal sounds of the human body and the relationship between those patterns and emotional state may be the ultimate source of the relationship between patterns of sound and movement in music and their strong emotional connotations. This theory is consistent with the universal link between music and religion and the changed states of consciousness that music can co-evoke. Charles Darwin's idea about the importance of music for human sexual selection found a new development in Miller's idea of the role of musical display for demonstrating fitness to mate. Based on the ideas of honest signal and the handicap principle, Miller suggested that music and dancing, as energetically costly activities, were to demonstrate the physical and psychological fitness of the singing and dancing individual to the prospective mates. Critics of this approach note how in most species where singing is used for the purposes of sexual selection through female choice, only males sing, and besides, males as a rule sing alone. Among humans, both males and females are ardent singers, and making music is mostly a communal activity. Communal singing by both sexes occurs among many cooperatively breeding songbirds of Australia and Africa such as the butcherbirds, fairy wrens, white-browed sparrow weaver and turdoise species, but is absent from non-hominid mammals. Prehistoric musical instruments. It is likely that the first musical instrument was the human voice itself, which can make a vast array of sounds, from singing, humming and whistling through to clicking, coughing and yawning. The oldest known Neanderthal hyoid bone with the modern human form has been dated to be 60,000 years old, predating the oldest known Paleolithic bone flute by some 20,000 years, but the true chronology may date back much further. Most likely the first rhythm instruments or percussion instruments involved the clapping of hands, stones hit together, or other things that are useful to create rhythm, and indeed there are examples of musical instruments which date back as far as the Paleolithic, although there is some ambiguity over archaeological finds which can be variously interpreted as either musical or non-musical instruments, tools. Examples of Paleolithic objects which are considered unambiguously musical are bone flutes or pipes. Paleolithic finds which are open to interpretation are pierced phalanges, objects interpreted as bull roarers, and rasps. Music can be theoretically traced to prior to the Old Urn era of the Paleolithic age. The anthropological and archaeological designation suggests that music first arose when stone tools first began to be used by hominids. The noises produced by works such as pounding seed and roots into meal is a likely source of rhythm created by early humans. Flutes. The oldest flute ever discovered may be the so-called Divya flute, found in the Slovenian cave Divya in 1995, though this is disputed. The item in question is a fragment of the femur of a juvenile cave bear, and has been dated to about 43,000 years ago. However, whether it is truly a musical instrument or simply a carnivore chewed bone is a matter of ongoing debate. In 2012, some flutes that were discovered years earlier in the Gysenkloster cave received a new high-resolution carbon dating examination yielding an age of 42,000 to 43,000 years. In 2008, archaeologists discovered a bone flute in the Hohlerfels cave near Ulm, Germany. The five-holed flute has a V-shaped mouthpiece and is made from a vulture wing bone. The researchers involved in the discovery officially published their findings in the journal Nature in June 2009. It is one of several similar instruments found in the area, which date to at least 35,000 years ago, making this one of the oldest confirmed find of any musical instruments in history. The Hohlefels flute was found next to the Venus of Hohlefels and a short distance from the oldest known human carving. On announcing the discovery, scientists suggested that the finds demonstrate the presence of a well-established musical tradition at the time when modern humans colonized Europe. Scientists have also suggested that the discovery of the flute may help to explain why early humans survived while Neanderthals became extinct. The oldest known wooden pipes were discovered in Wicklow, Ireland, in the winter of 2003. A wood-lined pit contained a group of 6 flutes made from yew wood, between 30 and 50 centimeters long, tapered at one end, but without any finger holes. They may once have been strapped together. In 1986, several gudi were found in Jiahu in Henan Province, China. They date to about 6000 BCE. They have between 5 and 8 holes each and were made from the hollow bones of a bird, the red-crowned crane. At the time of the discovery, one was found to be still playable. The bone flute plays both the 5 or 7-note scale of Qiaji and 6-note scale of Qingshang of the ancient Chinese musical system. Archaeoacoustic methodology. The use of the term music is problematic within prehistory. It may be that, as in the traditional music of much of sub-Saharan Africa, the concept of music, as we understand it, was somewhat different. Many languages traditionally have terms for music that include dance, religion or cult. The context in which prehistoric music took place has also become a subject of much study, as the sound made by music in prehistory would have been somewhat different depending on the acoustics present. The field of archaeoacoustics uses acoustic techniques to explore prehistoric sounds, soundscapes and instruments, and has included the study of ringing rocks and lithophones, of the acoustics of ritual sites such as chamber tombs and stone circles, and the exploration of prehistoric instruments using acoustic testing. Such work has included acoustic field tests to capture and analyze the impulse response of archaeological sites, acoustic tests of lithophones or rock gongs, and reconstructions of soundscapes as experimental archaeology. An academic research network, the Acoustics and Music of British Prehistory Research Network, has explored this field. Cycladic culture. On the island of Keros, 2 marble statues from the late Neolithic culture called early Cycladic culture were discovered together in a single grave in the 19th century. They depict a standing double flute player and a sitting musician playing a triangular-shaped lyre or harp. The harpist is approximately 23 centimeters high and dates to around 2700–2500 BCE. He expresses concentration and intense feelings and tilts his head up to the light. The meaning of these and many other figures is not known. Perhaps they were used to ward off evil spirits or had religious significance or served as toys or depicted figures from mythology.